So now we get to talk about the warm air masses, starting with the warm, moist air masses, maritime tropical air masses. And we said there's generally two source regions for us here in North America. There's the source region over the Pacific on our west, and then there's the source region over the Atlantic on our east. And then I would tend to kind of think of the Gulf as a third source region. That's, I guess, optional. Pull my pointer. So maritime tropical air masses, compared to, we're going to talk about the other warm air mass, continental tropical air masses, and they're not quite as warm as those. They definitely are unstable. Any air mass that is warm is unstable, and any air mass that is moist has a degree of instability. So maritime tropical air masses are definitely unstable. And not only are they unstable, so that means they'll tend to want to rise vertically, but since they're laden with moisture, as they ascend, remember that they are going to, that chunks of air that are ascending are unstable, they're unstable, so they are ascending, they will expand, and as they expand, they will cool, and they can cool to the point of condensation happening within that parcel of air, or within that parcel of air within the air mass. And so, of course, you can get condensation and ultimately precipitation with maritime tropical air masses. So this is just showing you a picture of perhaps a maritime tropical air mass has moved inland. And remember, one of the things is as a chunk of air moves inland, remember, it hits frictional forces and it kind of piles up. So there's an automatic sort of lifting mechanism as air moves from large bodies of water to land. Okay, so when we talk about severe weather in the next unit of material in this class, severe weather would be, of course, weather associated with cumulonimbus clouds. Cumulonimbus clouds are our thunderstorm clouds. We're going to see that one, definitely, oftentimes, our cumulonimbus clouds, our severe weather, is associated with maritime tropical air masses. So this is just kind of, I tried to remember what this was showing us. This is showing kind of how maritime tropical air masses from the Atlantic or the Gulf can actually dump then on the coastal regions. This is showing you the great amount of precipitation that is received in these locations. And you can kind of almost see they look like isopluffs showing you the same rainfall. Okay. One of the things we talked about in an earlier chapter are monsoons. And monsoons are, we use the term monsoon for a location that experiences drastic differences in seasons with regard to a wet season and a dry season because of usually the influence of mountains, and in some cases with monsoons in India, relocation of the intertropical convergence zone and mountains. So this is focusing on North America monsoon. And as you might imagine, or as we've been talking, you can see North America here, Tucson, Arizona. MT, of course, stands for Maritime Tropical. And we said that a source region is here in the Pacific. And so what happens then in the summertime is we have that warm, moist air moving in from the Pacific, and it hits the land, and it piles up and then begins to lift. And we definitely have precipitation in July, August, September, October. I don't know how far you want to kind of, so that is our wet season, and then we have the dry season most certainly in the spring months here, April, May, June. Another warm air mass, remember this warm air mass is only in the summer, the dry warm air mass, continental tropical air masses. And I added the word only. It's not on maybe your slides if you printed them out. So continental tropical air masses form only in the summertime, and they form in the southwest U.S., northern Mexico. And these are even hotter in general, like I said a minute ago, than your maritime tropical air masses. Now, since they are dry, even though the air is unstable and will lift, since they're dry, in general, there will be there's no clouds necessarily associated with that dry, unstable air that's ascending. But in the next chapter, I'm going to talk about something called dry lines. As we talk about fronts, a dry line is a type of front, and it's associated, you're going to see this, I'll go ahead and draw the front in, and it's dry lines separate maritime tropical warm moist air from continental tropical dry hot air. And so this is a dry line, and even though, notice that these are both hot, or I'll just go ahead and say warm, these are both warm air masses, the difference between moisture, maritime versus continental, is enough to affect what we call the continental. It's enough, the differences in moisture are enough to affect what we call the dew point temperature. And actually, we definitely have a fair bit of instability with dry lines. Continental. So more on this particular type of front, dry line front, between maritime tropical and continental tropical air masses in the next section.